while still being kind to yourself, kind to others, have compassion. But we need to clear space to hold space. If you're overwhelmed in your nervous system, if you're overwhelmed in your physical space, in your workplaces, maybe with friendships that have maybe grown past you or you've grown past them, it's not a judgment either, it's discernment. Who do you want to spend your time with? I hear so much these days about holding space. What does that mean? And before we even go into what that might mean, one of the things that I'm becoming aware of in my own life and for many is that if you want to hold space beautifully, you've got to clear space in your own life. If you don't have any space internally in your own mind, in your heart, in your body, in your psyche, in your spirit, you're not likely going to be able to hold space for others very well or at the embodied level that you're actually capable of. So today's episode is about clearing space. I was gardening this morning. I've got these beautiful hanging baskets and I was deadheading them. And that's when this came forward. And for those of you that aren't familiar, deadheading is where you pull off the old buds. They're dried up. They don't really have a lot of life anymore. And if you don't do that, it actually prevents more fresh flowers from coming in. So 2 of the hanging baskets out of the 3, I've been doing that pretty regularly. The one I feel like I'd neglected a little bit and it had a lot of deadheads on it. And comparatively to the other 2 that I had been doing that on, there's not nearly as many fresh, beautiful flowers coming in because the old ones were taking up that space. They effectively have been blocking new buds and more flowers from coming in. And so as I was contemplating that and pulling all these buds off and watering, bringing it back to life, it really made me think about my own life and where are the places that I've neglected where there needs to be some deadheading. There needs to be some space cleared. This can be a really broad topic, but what I want to start with is even your physical space. Where are places you can start clearing to give you more space? And a cluttered space is often a cluttered mind. I'm sure you've all heard that before, but it's true. We can start to feel overwhelmed by how many things we're collecting, hanging on to, literally and metaphorically. What are you hanging on to in your life that might be past its due date, especially on the emotional aspect? What baggage are you hanging on to that you don't need anymore? And this is actually a huge part of my practice in the clinic of the last 15 years. More of my work every year that goes by is more focused on clearing the things out of the body as compared to putting things back in there. What I'm finding nowadays is people are so full. Toxicity is a big one. They're overwhelmed with bacteria, parasites, mold toxicity, metal toxicity, chemical toxicity. There's so many things that we're bombarded with nowadays, but especially mentally. If you think of all the platforms out there, and I know I'm speaking on a platform right now, I hope it's of value, but I want you to discern my words and every other words that you're taking in on social media and all the hyper stimulus of our world right now. Is that actually serving you? In some cases, yes. In many, many cases, probably not. Or you could at least declutter your space electronically and how much stimulus you're allowing into your mind, into your body. It happens so innocently, a little bit at a time, and pretty soon maybe you're scrolling for hours. What have you filled your system with? What have you filled your mind with? Where's your energy going? And are you cultivating and directing energy in your life in the way that you want, in a really empowered way? Or is it sort of being robbed by all these other grasps at our time? Our most valuable currency is our time and our presence. So these are the questions for contemplation today. Where are you spending your time? Are you present in spending that time? And is that a good use of this valuable resource that you have? Think about that. And think of some areas that you can start decluttering that maybe are not overwhelming, that are easy. Maybe start with your desk. Start with your bedroom. Pick one room in your house to start decluttering and just work on that. Work on it over a few days. Work on it over a week. and then tackle another room, another space. How many of you are paying for storage somewhere of items that maybe don't bring value into your life anymore? Sell it, give it away, clear out that clutter. Even if you don't think about it very often, it might be taking up valuable space in your inner environment. So a lot of the work clinically, I'll make remedies, I'll give people practices and recommendations to start decluttering their bodies, their detox pathways, the lymphatic system, the liver, the kidneys especially. Those are key areas that we work on, the bloodstream, circulation, all the things that have accumulated. And what's really interesting is we've often accumulated so many toxins from our ancestors as well. Not to blame the ancestors, they were exposed to so many things that we don't even know about. And if you go back several generations, you can imagine a lot of that stacking up, and we call that bioaccumulation of toxicity. But it's not just the physical toxins, it's the emotional toxins. And I'm not trying to label emotions as toxic. They're not inherently so. But when they start getting accumulated and cluttered up in your body, then they start blocking things. Suppressed anger, suppressed rage, suppressed grief. You notice I'm saying suppressed. We're also living in a society, especially from a modern medicine point of view, where prescriptions are designed to suppress what's naturally coming up in the body. They don't detox the system. In fact, they often add to the accumulated toxicity. I'm not saying there's not a time and a place for different types of medication. We need what we need at times. However, what are you hanging on to past that point? Take a breath. How much deep breathing are you doing in your life? Or do you feel so overwhelmed and bombarded you only breathe in the upper chest? You don't breathe through your nose, maybe. Take a moment to give yourself space right now to breathe even. I know there's a lot of pressures. I know there's a lot of chaos in the world. There's a lot of creative opportunity as well, though. And are you going to remain a victim to the external circumstances in your life? Or are you going to start consciously co-creating with God, with the universe, taking self-responsibility for the things that are happening in your life as best you can, while still being kind to yourself, kind to others, have compassion? But we need to clear space to hold space. If you're overwhelmed in your nervous system, if you're overwhelmed in your physical space, in your workplaces, maybe with friendships that have maybe grown past you or you've grown past them, it's not a judgment either. It's discernment. Who do you want to spend your time with? And again, as I was deadheading my beautiful hanging baskets this morning, as I was clearing space for the flowers to come in, I was thinking about that. I have beautiful people in my life. And where maybe do I need better boundaries? Where can I clear space where I've been putting time that doesn't seem either that I'm able to bring a lot of value into those spaces or that I'm not receiving value? There's both involved. These are huge pieces in life. Who you spend time with is one of the most important things that you can choose. Choose wisely in all aspects, because you might have a lot of space being taken up in your system and you don't even know it. You've become so used to it. So I'd invite you to take an inventory of some of the aspects of your life, professionally, personally. Where can you start to clear things away? Where can you start to simplify? Complexity is a vast area that can suck up way more energy than what you think. Why do we make things so complex? Out of fear, out of lack, out of scarcity. We need to keep adding more for that fulfillment that we think we're going to get maybe from buying that thing or doing that thing. Is it true though? What happened to stillness? What happened to contemplation? What happened to relaxation? Not being hyper stimulated every day. That builds up so much clutter in the mind. It's hard on the organ systems. It uses so much energy. So what I've noticed for myself as I continue to clear away things in my life, internally and externally, that don't seem to serve me anymore, or they've come to a completion in some way. And they don't have to be big things. But if we are in a practice of doing this every day or every week and taking inventory and really being mindful of how we're showing up, Even our thoughts. What regular thoughts do you have daily that are actually cluttering your mind and they're not actually serving you anymore? Maybe it's time to start clearing that stuff away. So if you look at the inventory of your life, even with physical objects as well, and where you're putting your vast, precious time, I would guess, especially in our society here in North America, 90% of the population, maybe 80, I don't know, probably spend 80% of their time tending to things that are not the most essential and are actually not the things that are most important to them. So when we distill everything down, what is it that is most important to you? Who are the people that are most important to you? Have you neglected those areas? Have you neglected friendships or connections with your loved ones, especially? And what took the place of that? Was it worth it? This is a good learning for all of us at this current point, midway through 2024. Time to start decluttering. So by the end of the year, perhaps you've cleared enough space internally that you can effectively hold space for others to do the same. That's where healing happens. It's not in the complexity. It's in the simplicity. Thank you.